for a while in a lot of different areas. So let's start with how you began. How did you get into this industry?
I started through acting. That's my passion. If I could wave a magic wand, that's all I'd be doing, but the industry is different. So I started, I was born in Philadelphia, moved to New York. I studied with, well, I'm old, so I studied with Lee Strasberg and Actors Studio and Stella Adler and did the whole Actors Studio, Broadway road. Came here to LA to visit a friend maybe for like a week and got a lot of offers. So I was under contract for a play at the Roundabout Theater, so I finished that out and then came here. And I've never left. I like it here. So.
Now, you started your career in New York in Broadway.
I did. Yeah, so I built it up to the Broadway. You know, you do the off-Broadway, the off-Broadway, then, woo, the Broadway, Lincoln Center, you know, that whole thing. So it was fun. It was exciting. It's, you know, it was perfect. So.
But then you came to LA.
I came to LA because my agent wanted it here. I always knew I didn't want to live in New York forever. I liked the energy, but I liked the vibe better in Los Angeles. I knew I wanted to do television and film more than theater. In New York at that time, there wasn't as much TV and film. I did TV and film. My first film thing in New York, I was a trash can who built Michael Jackson in The Wiz. So I was like, okay, all right, this is show business. I can be a trash can. They had to put a black hood on me because I wasn't black, and all right, it's fun.
So was it a difficult adjustment going from theater to on-camera work?
Yes. Theater is very big, so the whole thing of it is project and be big, but where film is very little, and you can say a whole lot and don't have to be big, which honestly I prefer because I like the natural type of interaction. Even comedy, you know, it's like people think comedy has to be so big and so broad, and yeah, there is a certain genre for that, but mostly even comedy, the humor is out of the realism and the situation, and I like that, so I prefer it.
And then you started in acting, but you've gone into producing and writing.
I did. I kind of fell into it. It's like, it used to be you could just be an actor, and that was great, and you just spent your whole life being an actor, but as time changed, if you really wanted work, you had to do other things. And there was a point where myself and two other fathers were sitting outside the elementary school after I had kids, and we were all complaining, no, we don't get any auditions, and what is going on, and blah, blah, blah. And so I said, well, maybe we should write something. And it's like one of the fathers was Jim Pickens from Grey's Anatomy, and the other one was Jay Pennick, and they all went on to have decent careers. And so we started to write. It was new to us. Like, looking back, I haven't read it in a while. Maybe they weren't so good, but it did that jump start. And then I started to meet other people and got into producing, and so I went into that direction, and then jobs would come to me, so I landed up in that direction. I still act. I love acting, as a matter of fact. I prefer to act, but the producing is fun too, because you get to really put it all together and make it work, and that's very fulfilling.
And you've also done work in film marketing. So have you applied everything you've learned there to your producing?
Yeah, and I didn't know it. It's like film marketing was my straight job, so to speak. It was my job to make sure there was food on the table and a roof and et cetera, et cetera. And I never looked at it as even being part of the entertainment industry. And then when I got into producing, it turned out that I was able to go into a meeting with studio heads and stuff, and I knew stuff they didn't know, and that made me valuable. And what I knew was how to market a film, how to find the right audience, how to listen to an audience, because I worked for a very small company and that was more boutique. So we did everything. There was like maybe 8 to 10 of us, and all we did, we would start on the streets and we would give out invites to movies. But when you talk to people on the street, they'll tell you the truth. I mean, I knew when Sylvester Stallone's career was over before he did. I knew, when people's careers, like Seth Rogen, was going to be very popular before he did. Because of the reaction that when I talked to people on the street. And then we would go and we would screen it, and we would do focus groups, and we would listen to them, and we would do exit polls after it came out and talk to an audience. So it turned out that I really learned that what your preconceived conception going into making a film and what you think your audience is going to be is not necessarily the same thing. So, for example, I was telling you before, I have a film that's coming out. It's called Jack and the Empress, and it's about Bessie Smith and her husband, Jack Gee, and their relationship. And I found out, I went up and down theater lines, and I asked people, would you go see a movie about Bessie Smith? And I asked black lines, I asked white lines, I asked mixed race lines. And I went in with the conception that 1, black people would like it, 2, that older people would like it, and 3, there would be no awareness with young people. And I found out by asking people, and I only asked them 3 questions. Do you know who Bessie Smith is? Would you like to see her? And who would you like to see play her? And what the answer was, which was kind of like mind-blowing, was that black audiences did not know who she was. Older people did not know who she was. Younger people did know who she was. That they didn't care who played her. They wanted to know how it reflected their life today. Now, white audiences did know who she was, did want to see who she was, and also younger people knew who she was because they learned about her in school. So now the whole preconceived concept I have applying to producing changed, because it's like, oh, I was only going to market it here, but oops, I should be marketing it here. And you learn that beforehand, you save a lot of very big money mistakes.
So did that change how you approached the film itself, and how the story worked?
It didn't change how I approached the film itself, because the film itself is about what it's about. Mm-hmm. I mean, artistically, that particular film is about the relationship. What is it like to be in an era where women have no rights, which we are now back to, but we won't go there. And what is it like to be black from the late 1800s to the 1970s? And how does it affect a relationship? How does it affect where the man isn't making the money and the woman who has no rights is crushing it? So it's, that's true to itself. Mm-hmm. Now, when we go to market it, it will be to a much wider audience than initially. But where it comes in with the film is financing. Because now you can go to financiers and say, it is not a limited audience. It's an international audience. There are blues clubs across all of Europe. They're very big now. There's blues bands starting in the United States, very big now. So, and it does not have to be marketed to one group. So that's where it comes in. So it comes in the pre-production, and it comes in the post-production.
Now, you've done work with a lot of different groups. This work is, of course, about black women in the early 20th century, but you've done other work with gay Latino groups. Mm-hmm. So tell us about your work there and how important it is to have diversity in film?
Very important to have diversity in film. To me, it's very important. I think that film and television and ads, anything creative, should reflect what the real world is. So diversity, I tend to go towards projects that are more diverse. So yeah, I've done a documentary on a Japanese woman in the Japanese internment camps. The last show I had on the air, The House, was a Black LGBTQIA talk show where they would talk around a table on what it was like and what their challenges are. And I've done every group, just because I feel that it's important. And I think their stories are interesting, and and a lot of them come to me. I don't know why, they just do, and it happens. So, that kind of brings us to why we did the Escapades with Alexandra Rosario and Garth Sanatini, because it's a Dumb and Dumber, but it's an ethnic Dumb and Dumber. And they never show that. It's like, oh, if you're going to be buffoons, you're going to be like just white or just black or just Asian or you know, and it's like, no, there are people that are mixed. There are people that are, just because you're Latin doesn't mean all your friends are Latin. You have diversity in your friendships, and none of that's shown today. So, though it's such a ridiculously stupid show, but it's ridiculous in a very warm way. Because the guys do come off as best friends, and you believe it, and you can see yourself in them, which I think a lot of television misses. I don't like that they just do black shows, they just do white shows, they just, fresh off the boat. It's like, well, where's everybody else, And why aren't there mixed kids? And yet, I don't get it, but that's me.
Are there any of your work that you're particularly proud of and you want our audiences to go and check out?
Well, do check out The Escapades. We're trying to shop it. And that's on all social media. I'm actually pretty proud of all the stuff. Some of it's, light, like I did a talk show about coffee and tea, and I met a lot of very interesting people, like some young people who just went off to Africa to start a tea plantation, It's, everything I've done, I find, comfort's not the right word, excitement. I think you need to be excited about every project you do, and not kind of dwell on one versus another one, but yeah. So we'll see.
And then you're working on the Bessie film. Are there any other films or projects that you're working on right now?
Working on the Jack and the Empress film, which is Jackie and Bessie Smith. We're working on getting Escapades, The Misadventures of Bahan and Santiago, into a series. We're working on a series called Rodriguez and Son, which is about a father and son who are Puerto Rican, who owns a Botanica, which is like a novelty shop that does Santeria stuff in the back with chickens and for good luck and candles and all that kind of stuff, that's based actually on my husband's family because they used to own one. We're finishing up the documentary and getting that out the door. Where there is a TV show about that my producing partner Paula Mitchell Manning wrote, that we're pushing, that's about child stars, ex-child stars, run by an ex-child star with a theatrical agency that only handles ex-child stars. So those are the immediate stuff that we're doing.
Now, you've been in the industry for a while, so you've seen how it's changed. What's different now than when you started?
Everything. Everything's different. What were the good old days? But when I started, you had control over the business end. you could make rounds, which is taking your picture and resume, go knocking on doors, dropping it on desk, hoping for the best. I got onto Broadway because I knocked on stage doors and just dropped off pictures and resumes and said, call me, I'm good for this part, and eventually they would. And then when I came to LA, you could get on a studio lot and you could just go to offices and drop things off, and then 9/11 happened, and everything shut down. And so you couldn't make the rounds anymore. People were very guarded. They were, you could go to some individual offices, but not really. And then COVID hit and the offices disappeared. So now everything is done virtually. And for an actor, I have very mixed feelings on how to audition. It's like now they do self-tapes. Everything that you get now is a self-tape, which means you tape it in your house, if you don't know what that is. And I really miss the one-on-one with a casting person, because I feel a casting person you talk to, and they can get a feel for you. They'll know how you'll be on a set, where a self-tape you can do like 90 times, and they don't know you took 90 takes. I mean, so how do they know? Also, you never really know, did they really watch it? Did they see it? Did they watch more than 10 seconds of it? Where when you're in a casting room, you auditioned. If you get it, you get it. You don't, but you auditioned. So I miss that. And then there's social media. We didn't grow up with social media or cell phones, or we had answering services. We had, you'd call them up like every 5 minutes in payphones. I'm old. But it's very different.
Now, do you have any advice for people who want to get into acting and producing?
Yes. If you want to be an actor, there's a couple things. One is, make sure you have a life for yourself. Don't make the business your life, because it goes very, very fast. The other thing is, you have to love it. I mean, really, really love it, because a life is really, really hard. And it's a choice. And yes, it's exciting, and yes, you could hit it like this, or it could take you 50 years to get anything. And you could have a series and it's on for 2 years and then nothing. And you have to be able to believe that you're an actor so much that you don't care if anyone else sees it, if anyone else believes it, because in the end, you're the only person who believes in yourself. And if you believe in yourself, either as an actor or a producer or a writer or a cameraman or any of the creative people that come together to make a film, because that's important too. It's a team. Whether it's a stage show, a film, television, don't let your ego get in the way. Leave it home. Just leave it home. And it's very magical. It's very addictive. But to survive it, like really survive it and still be laughing when you're in your 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, you have to have made a life for yourself. That doesn't mean you have to get married and have kids, but you have to have a life. Don't make it just about the business, because you'll be better in the business if you're better in your life. If you're miserable, it will carry over. So that's pretty much my advice.
And where can our audience go to learn more about you?
Google. Google Mindy Rosario. I come up a lot. That's the best way to find out. I mean, there's the business end. I don't know how much of my personal end comes up. That's a whole other episode on how to survive life, period. But just Google. It changes all the time. And I got a website.
Google Mindy Rosario. Check out her work. She's done so many great things, and so many great things to come. So thank you, everyone, for watching. We have a lot of great interviews coming up, so stay tuned.
Thank you for having me. Bye.